A 1-point lesson is not an instruction. 1-point lessons serve a very specific but important role within your training organization. But I see many companies using them in a wrong way and not getting the maximum benefit from this very strong tool. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And today's topic is a very strong communication tool that you use in your training toolkit, the 1-point lesson. So 1 page with only 1 subject clearly explained. Now some companies really use it as a way to base all their training materials on. So you will have thousands of 1-point lessons that together make a sort of course curriculum. Not the way to go, even though the quality of those 1-point lessons will probably be very high. Now, there is a special role for 1-point lessons apart from work instructions. So if you've got your work instructions, videos, standard operating procedures, they are separate documents. And they should remain separate. The 1-point lesson has a very important role in communicating changes in your work standards. That is these work instructions or your other basic training material that you need to support your processes. By the way, not every process needs their own work instruction, but that's another topic. Now, the 1-point lesson communicates change. It is basically something to draw attention. And what I like is that there are 3 basic types of 1-point lessons, and several templates actually have these 3 types. They have improvement, basic knowledge, or problem. And this is a choice. So which of these things are you trying to do when you write your current 1-point lesson? So let's go over them and you will see how to use them to communicate something. So if we are talking about an improvement, then we've got this before and after situation. What was the old? What's the new? One of your standards has changed. And this change needs to be communicated. Now for your new employees, you do it through the instruction. You always put this change in the instruction, preferably immediately, but at the least during a yearly update cycle. So new people coming into the process, the department, they will learn about this way of working as if it is the only way of working that exists. But your current people, they already know something. They have to unlearn previous habits and learn a new way of working. So for them it is extra important that you say, this is how we used to do it, this is how you learned it in the previous instruction, this is how we will be doing it now, this is why our old way of working was not good, and this is what we get when we all adopt the new way of working. They need the extra communication because they have to unlearn something. And the second thing is basic knowledge. And basic knowledge, it would be strange to write an instruction or even a 1-point lesson about it, right? This should be part of your instructions already. But what do we mean is that sometimes there is something within the already existing instructions that you would like to put a lot of extra attention to. It can be that you just have like a theme of the month where you just want to stress part of your safety instructions or part of your quality regulations or some nice technical part that was part of the training, but you just want to give it a little bit of extra attention. Very nice way to do it, just an explainer. Or it is something that is as a standard already correctly in your instructions, but for some reason people don't really get it or it's difficult to apply in practice, and you want to repeat this point and make it very clear. And the third type of 1-point lesson is a problem. Now, the problem is not just to signal a problem. This is not the same as putting a label or a notification into a system somewhere. Do not use a 1-point lesson for that either. This is what happens when we break our standard ways of working. So it is very good to sometimes remind our colleagues what happens when we do not follow our standards. So we got a big customer complaint, and actually the root cause was people not following our normal ways of working, not following the standard. And the best is, this cost us so much money, so put a number on it, or we ticked off so many customers, so many tons of product were wasted. Really show the impact of not following standards. So basically what a 1-point lesson does is it draws a lot of attention to some part of your standards that you really want to emphasize. And in fact, you see this basic layout of the 1-point lesson. When we have an improvement, it's very nice to work with before and after. But when we have some clarification of a basic knowledge point, or we want to emphasize what happens when we do not follow standards, there is no before or after. You just change the format a bit, make one nice big picture with some explaining text around it. Be free when using this stuff. It still is nice to describe what problem and improvement result you had. Then how to use 1-point lessons in combination with your work instructions. So every time you change a work instruction, you don't really want to put the entire work instruction back in front of all the employees who already learned this point. Sometimes you say, I will highlight one of the paragraphs and just let them read that. The best way is to make a 1-point lesson about it. But also there's other two things. So explaining a bit of knowledge that is already in the instruction, or apparently we didn't follow an instruction, they are very much linked to how well and how critical parts of our instructions are received. So a 1-point lesson is in fact a support to an instruction. And that's why I think that we have a number here. Number your 1-point lessons in the same way. So if this 1-point lesson is part of that instruction package, so to say, also start it. By giving it the same document number with the extension 1-point lesson number so many. And every time that you go into a review of your instructions, you pick also all the 1-point lessons up from your system that are linked to this one instruction, so that you can use them to further strengthen the instruction. Because in the end, you want to get rid of each 1-point lesson again and get the critical points really well explained within your standard instruction document. And talking about that, a 1-point lesson should have an expiry date, or it should expire. And there are basically two ways to do this. The first way is when you say, I've got a list of my employees that need to follow this training. They need to see this 1-point lesson. And when they checked it, we'll just mark them off. And as soon as the last person on our list has seen and understood this 1-point lesson, it's gone. It's no longer needed. We communicated the change or the attention that we wanted to communicate to all relevant people. And all new people will find it through your normal instruction system. And the other way is just to say, I want to have it as an attention grabber for a set number of days. So you can say, after 60 days, this is no longer needed to be put in front of people. This is especially useful if you hang it somewhere in the department next to the working area, the way with the checklist of who needs to see this instruction is of course especially useful if it is about an improvement. But for all three types of 1-point lesson, both methods can sometimes be the preferred way to organize expiry. You leave the document itself, so the 1-point lesson, available for the auditor to review your instructions until you had the next review round, and then you can even just delete the 1-point lessons. It's not that important anymore. They are temporary attention grabbing mechanisms. So if you like this way of using 1-point lessons, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, but really tell me in the comments, do you use 1-point lessons in this way? And if you do, what was the result? I would love to hear how this is used in your organizations, so that together we can also benefit and make our training programs better. And for now, I wish you the best of luck with your instructions and your one-point lessons. And as always, enjoy the journey.